Hello everyone, my name's Daniel, I'm one hell of a nerd, and today we're going to be reacting to the new Inside Star Citizen where they talk about level design. It is called, and I quote, "How we work level design." Very, very clever. Anywho, so yeah, we're gonna watch this real quick. I haven't made a lot of Star Citizen content in the past, but I want to try to do more of that. I love Star Citizen, and I've been a fan since I saw it in Game Informer long time ago. And I've been playing for the last 4 years. I love the game. I'm not the biggest fan of it at this very moment, but when 324 comes out, it's gonna be fantastic. I know it. I can feel it. But anyways, we're gonna check out this level design thing, and we're gonna see how we make levels. All right, let's get to it.
Inside Star Citizen is many different things to many different people. But at the center of it all is our desire to educate about the very nature of game development itself. And in this week's part 2 of our 3-part experimentation and format, we lean into that aspect and explore some of the foundational philosophies that guide just one of the teams that are continuously working to iterate and improve on the persistent universe.
Let's just talk about this concept art that's sitting in the back that's so fucking cool. Their artists are some of the best artists that are out there, man. I swear to God. But I guess with a team size of 1,200 individuals, I would hope they have the best team size, or some of the best out there.
As it prepares to grow in this year's upcoming Alpha 4.0. Now, where last week we met the team, this week it's how we work level design with the folks from the Frankfurt level design team.
That looks like a Halo helmet for sure.
Well, level design, it's probably one of the hardest things to describe in game development.
We take gameplay elements and we take the environment and we just bring all that together.
It is more than the sum of all of its pieces. You can't just kind of speed level design a forest log cabin. That's not enough. Like, what is the player doing there? What does it mean? Why does this thing exist in this space? What can the player do as well?
You've got the environment art that makes the art itself. This is not us. We have the gameplay teams that make all the gameplay elements, and this is not us. What we do is we take these two things, we combine them together and make it cohesive environment for you guys. We design the space itself, and we also accommodate everything that goes inside of it.
A lot of the things that you use, like hangars, ATC, I hate to say it, transit systems.
Elevator rides.
Wait,
you're responsible for the elevators?
Elevator.
So, for those of you who do not play Star Citizen, just so you're aware, the reason he hates to say transit systems is because these transit systems are notorious for ejecting you out of them. This is an alpha. So, take it with a grain of salt. If you're playing the game, at some point, something is gonna bug out. Great game, buggy game. Yeah, anyways, I just think that's funny because so many people get, left on the tracks of one of the trams or fall through the planet because of the, all the different things that exist out in the transportation in Star Citizen, which there are flying ships on planets that are gas giants. There are trams that are in large cities. There are basically a bullet train system. I've been dropped on the tracks, that bullet train system. I've been dropped out of one of those flying ships into the middle of a gassy planet, and then bugged out, and then had to do a character reset because the person is the devil. Things like that.
That's our problem, yeah.
No, we're just a setup site.
Go to sleep. If you die in the elevator, that's actually a problem from the coding side. We just throwing them under the bus.
Is it possible in a sandbox game to have level design?
Yes, because you have to consider all of the individual constituent pieces and why they need to exist together.
Bullet train.
You can throw anything in there, but you have to account for, like, does this begin to break the game? So you have conversations with economy, you have conversations with code, you have conversations with system design, mission design, and you have to figure out how all these pieces, again, stitch together.
Basically, they just make the 3D
So there are
renders
6
of the shit. They
principles for
don't,
good
they
level
don't
design.
fuck around with
First
how
is
things
readability.
work.
This
what
basically
they're
means
trying to tell
clarity in your environment.
You're going to make sure within your layouts that everybody can understand where they need to go, what they need to do.
All the affordances need to make sense. The typical one could be, I've got a door in front of me. How do you describe a locked door from an unlocked door?
For example, you're fighting an AI, and they can read easily the elements, the gameplay elements. You need to understand your cover space. You need to find the AI within the space. If the AI is in a black area, you will not see it at all. And this is very important for us. We really focus on this kind of stuff, and we make sure that anything you interact with within the environment, you can see as clear as possible.
The next is
They're
flow
pretty good
and
about
leading
that,
lines.
unlike Call of Duty,
It's,
who's literally
it's creating a good composition of all these things, from layout,
bias skins and can't be
lighting,
seen.
some props, a good mix of combat spaces or like combat encounters,
Oh,
and
he is a
then
criminal.
time for exploration,
That
and
was
then
security, he
doing
just
a mix
killed.
between both.
We make sure that you're not going always
Oh,
on a
that's
straight
so
line.
cool.
We
That's
make
like
sure that you're
Pyro
not
shit right
spending
there.
2 hours walking from one space to the other.
In Pyro, you'll come across a lot more players
Yeah.
as we funnel them into a certain space with a concentration of missions, for example, or things to
Gives
do.
some,
That is
major
flow to us,
elsewhere
and on the flow
vibes.
level, that is higher on the chart. And then certain areas will be a bit more on the
Which, for those of you who don't know, is the name of the city where the collector is on Guardians 1.
lower end of your pacing. Leading lines is a compositional technique.
Some examples can be you are following the cables from one interactable through to another area to interact with another element. You're being breadcrumbed along, you're being led along these leading lines.
With Pyro Station, you have the
Pyro
core
looks-
element, you have the arms pointing towards the center. It's a very simple example, but more on a larger scale. But we look at it also on a room basis.
We're trying to direct you through to a discoverable place over here, or trying to direct you through to like
This
events.
is
We're using light
Pleasure,
and cables
where you
to
break out of prison.
navigate you through these spaces.
Third is options. We want to give you guys multiple options so you can complete your objective the way you
This
want
guy
it.
is literally
The context
breaking
of
out
our
prison
game
right now.
is giving the player the opportunity to approach certain situations in different ways or get an idea of the
You
situation
break
in
out
the
of
first
prison,
place.
you can grab a
You have
code
straightforward
to get
options,
the,
the combat route. You have a more sneaky option for players that don't like to engage in combat so much. Or you can also have like a puzzle route for players
Stealth
that
thing
like to
isn't
do
real.
more interesting environment interactions.
the space scale.
Then there is clustering.
Oh, that looks
Clustering
like
is
Tatooine.
also
That
falls
looks-
into the compositional techniques or more in the layout side of things.
Clustering means
That's
that you
Pyro.
start like bringing objects together to create something a bit more natural.
You put importance on things by grouping certain things up into clusters. A specific Pyro example would be the outposts, where you have a big landing pad in the center, and then you have groups of clusters of buildings that are arranged around it, and they form like points of interest by themselves.
We've not always been successful with clustering, but moving forwards into the future, especially with Pyro, we're taking a renewed effort to concentrate and cluster things properly.
Finally, there's scale and proportion. Scale is important
Pyro.
in how you vary it. If everything is large, for example,
This is Area
nothing
18.
is large
This
anymore.
is
We are the one that defines all the metrics.
this is not Coruscant. It's not a planet that's entirely a city. It was not stolen from Star Wars. No.
For FPS, but also for ships. We're talking about ships that have a few meters to some ships that have hundreds of meters. And we need to make sure that the transition from A to B
Ooh,
feels
that's,
always smooth
interesting.
and natural, right?
If you, for example, come from a maintenance corridor or a small little packed little vent and expose yourself to this big room, you know,
Oh, this
you'll
is one of
get
the
a more
distribution.
likely an aha moment.
So we still have a very big open spaces, but condense the gameplay space a bit more. So the players don't have so much options to walk around, but still get like the sense and the immersion of like a big open space.
Proportion is just also feeds into scale.
So you can
Use
use proportions to be able to scale up, like what is kind of the background
This
space,
Lorville.
what is the
We don't
foreground
talk about
space, and what is the
Lorville.
midground space of like what is immediately
shithole.
interesting to you as a player, and what is
Savage.
in the background that's not yet relevant to you.
Planet that
So you can land at
was
one
failed to be
outpost on
terraformed.
Pyro 2, and you can see yourself in a sort of like habitation outpost village. Down the hill you can see there's a refinery area, but the main feature of this place that you were drawn to initially was this massive mining tower. These become like your immediate foreground, your midground, and your background. But again, you can always come into your ship and go to this massive mining tower. Therefore, this becomes the new foreground. You're always orbiting it, you're transferring around. This becomes your landmark to orientate yourself around all these other spaces nearby.
Traditionally, in level design, you start out with a pre-production phase. This is where we ideate, conceptualize, we gather references, we do sketches, we do top-down layouts of our brain map, put things together.
We then go into white box, which is literally going into the editor, start mocking things up in 3D, creating the space, and defining where the gameplay elements are. We have a shop on the right, shop on the left, your elevator transit over here. We work at different scales at this point, and we define basically everything in the location, but with very, very basic shapes.
And then we hand it over to art, so the focus lies more on art for gray boxing, making things more pretty, with us still having an eye on it to see that the original concept is still intact.
And then finally, we'll move into final art, and the level designers will be able to kind of keep all of these locations, like the intent of the location is kept consistent. It doesn't veer off too much into suddenly it's too big or too small.
It's
This is the
wild to see
original
how it
design
goes from
direction that we
white
wanted
box
from beginning through
vinyl.
to end.
Once a location is
Seeing those,
released,
like,
it's
side by
not
side
finished
are
for us
awesome.
because there's always maintenance and additions that we do. When there's a new functionality, a new gameplay coming in, we go in and we add them to all the locations. We retrofit the locations. So whenever there is a bug in the PU, we have to maintain these locations. So we would go into new Babbage and fix AI placements or shops not working anymore. But mostly, level design is also about coordinating with every team.
So be it with like lighting, mission team, environment art, audio, narrative, they work more or less in their pockets, and then we try to keep an eye on like the big picture to bring everything together and look that everything is coherent and cohesive.
What is important to us, or what we really want you to experience is a nicer flow in the stations. I think what we realized with Stanton is, you just take a ton of elevators from place to place. We kind of want to optimize that for you, make it a bit more efficient.
But you had Port Olisar where you didn't have to take an elevator from place to place. And then you got rid of it instead of just fucking fixing it. I know it was old technology, but you could have just fixed it. Why didn't you just fix it? Why didn't you just fix it? Why didn't you just fix it? Bring back Port Olisar.
So you don't spend
Need
a
a
lot of
fucking
time
shit.
going from A to B.
We are trying to bring, for example,
Sure.
the clinic and the habitation right away into the shopping area and trying to make it much more compact.
At the same time, we really, really want to offer some good gameplay content within the stations, outside of missions that you can go into
That's
and
shady.
discover on your own as you explore.
We try to improve pyro stations with all the lessons we've got from Stanton.
And now for outposts, each location has to have its own identity. Like, does this outpost fulfill the need for a combat space? Does this outpost fulfill the need for like a social space? Does this outpost fulfill the need for like a puzzle space? All these factors come into play and come into consideration when creating a whole new location.
We want you to be able to discover little points of interest around the
Pico.
outpost. It's kind of feathered. If you come across an outpost, there will be multiple sub-locations around it.
I was gonna shoot
These
the
could be
Pico.
like villages around it. This could be derelict settlements that are abandoned and you have to go into and can find potentially loot in.
And once you've landed your ship, you are no more than a short walk away from the main reason you've arrived at this outpost, which is to trade. We want to encourage the use of ground vehicles to be able to pick up your cargo that you bought from this place, load up your little Drake mule, and drive it over to your ship, load that ship, and then fly out with your goods.
We wanted to create a location that felt real. So you had, the logistic is there. The AI created roads between the different points of interest within the outpost so that it feels logical for a player to walk in or to traverse.
Pyro is always dangerous, so any social space can turn into a combat scenario. So you need to be able to duck into cover at a moment's notice, even when you're doing nice, easy trade and socials. So we have to provide you with opportunities.
So we're clear. He said the AI. We're clear. The way that they've done this is they've created palettes for each system of assets, which you actually saw a little bit earlier in this. And instead of it being procedural generation, which is where it just generates things all on its own, right? Which means you can get all kinds of crazy shit. They take each universe, they build out a palette for that universe, and they go, okay, AI, here's the palette. Here's the general idea of where we want things. Build. And then it will build the surface of a planet. It will build the planets. It will build, you know, asteroids and dot them and stuff like that. And they touch it up with a human hand at the end of this. I don't know if they're going to go over that specifically, but they have talked about that before, and that's kind of what they mean when he says the AI made roads. So
For cover and exciting FPS combat scenarios.
There's a lot of things to consider for an open world game that on this scale. You have to account for multiple, situations and have players also be able to deal with all kinds of circumstances. So it is a complex undertaking. It's a challenging one, but this is what we want to account for in Pyro.
That's a cool
as much as we can.
Level design matters or is important because we think of a very broad scale and try to craft and create a great experience for you as the player.
Level design ends up being greater than the sum of all of its parts. I get to talk with all these different disciplines at CIG, but also get to kind of like hold the hand of the player and curate that all the way through.
We focus on the player experience. We look at all the features that exist and we try to bring them up all together into a cohesive environment that feels really fun for the players.
Do you always succeed?
No, but it's not always like within our hands, but we always try our best to, within the framework we have, to create like the best possible experience for you guys.
So we've learned a lot from our time in Stanton, and we love hearing all the feedback we get from you as players. We want to take that all on board and begin establishing ourselves forwards when we come into Pyro.
What we really want to do also is balance out gameplay with the visuals. I mean, in the past, we've seen a lot of focus being spent on the visuals and less so on the content. This needs to switch around and find an even plane. And level design is just one way we're doing this in Pyro. We as level designers really want to make Pyro and Stanton in the future a great experience for the players. From a flow perspective, boring you less, making things more efficient for you as you follow the gameplay loops that you want to follow, and offer you gameplay content that you can just discover on your own.
So what did we learn this week? Well, we learned that level design is a discipline that brings many other aspects of game development together to form what we always hope is a cohesive and enjoyable experience for the player. That the philosophies and precepts that guide their decisions continue to evolve as they learn important lessons from the development of Stanton and, of course, apply it to Pyro. And that Pyro itself continues to inspire an experience that should be markedly different from the one we have today in Stanton. For Inside Star Citizen, I'm Jared Huckabee. Thanks for letting us share the people and process of game development with you, and we'll see you all here next week.
Wait for it. Wait for it. Wait for it. Wait. Wait, there's usually a funny thing at the end of all these. Jared! Jared! You baited me, Jared! Not like this! With that, what did we learn today? Well, we learned, no, I'm just kidding. That would be plagiarism. We don't do that. Anyways, so yeah, it's kind of cool seeing the process they get into with, how they're like creating the worlds and whatnot. I think personally though, it is what it is. It's not like that. let me put it this way. I didn't learn much from that overall. I kind of already have a, ow. It's fine. It's fine. I'm just stabbing my eye over and over again. I kind of learned, stuff about game design because I wanted to get into game design, and I'm attempting to design my own game right now as we speak. So with all that being said, you know, I kind of already knew that's how it goes. It is interesting to me that the level design team actually does do more than just design the stuff. They actually communicate with all the teams to kind of piece them together and be like, hey, let's, you know, yeah. So, you know, that's pretty cool. I think that's really great. And the future of Star Citizen just keeps looking better and better, man. They've got some momentum behind them right now, and they keep pushing at it. And I just hope that God, my eye is itching so bad. Ugh. I just hope they stick to it, because you know, if they let up even a little bit, you know, the game's still in an alpha state. Yeah. If you're interested in Star Citizen, if any of this content looks great to you, there will be some link here somewhere in the description down below. And basically, if you click on it, me and you both get a bonus to our Star Citizen. Sign up with that code to Robert Space Industries and take the game for a test drive. I'd strongly suggest it. I've met an incredible amount of friends. If you're asking for suggestions, go with the $70 ship, not the $45 one. You were gonna spend $70 on a AAA title game for your PlayStation, your Xbox, or any of that shit anyways. Just go ahead and spend the $70, get the Avenger Titan, unlock all the gameplay loops, except for like fucking you know, you can even salvage. Just unlock all those gameplay loops and be done with it, you know, just saying. But if you're on a budget, you know, $45, you know, get you started. And you have a whole solar system to explore. You have so many gameplay loops to get into. So, yeah, definitely check it out. Yeah, I think that's about it, guys. Overall, great ISC. Jared being funny as usual. And, yeah. So, as usual, don't forget to tell somebody you love them. You never know when they need to hear it. Somebody a call, shoot them a text message, tell them you love them, you appreciate them, you're glad they're in your life right now. Don't wait. And until next time, my name's Daniel, and I'm one hell of a nerd. We'll see you.